Hello, welcome to R&B Reviews. We're your usual hosts. I'm Rob.
I'm Brendan.
And because Inglourious Bastards is coming out this weekend, we decided to go ahead and have a conversation about what we think are Quentin Tarantino's best films and our least favorite films. And so Brendan, for my favorite film, it's a Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, because with Volume 1, it's different than Tarantino's other films where it's more dialogue-oriented. It's definitely more of an action film, but both films are paying tribute to kung fu films and to the spaghetti westerns of the 60s and 70s. And I liked with Volume 1, he went back to doing the telling the story out of order, because with Jackie Brown, he told it more in chronological order. And here he went, and I think it's a good thing he went back to mixing the scenes up, because if he hadn't done that with Volume 1, Lucy Liu's scenes would taken up the whole picture, and then when we got to Vivica A. Fox, it would just seem very,
brief and quick.
And unbalanced. Volume 2 I liked just as much. The lone fight scene in that thing wasn't as spectacular, but it was still pretty good. The characters were really good.
I liked seeing David Carradine more in that one. You know, they definitely gave him a lot more dialogue. And I was just recently watching it, and it's such a great film, and the references to spaghetti westerns. I mean, he's very good about putting homages in there, but not ripping people off and doing it in his own sort of style.
And the confrontation between Bill and the bride I liked, because it was definitely a good alternative to the bloody fighting that we saw in some of the other scenes. And I was impressed that he could direct all those action fights. Like, I was watching the documentary at the end of Volume 2 where they were discussing the fight scenes, and he had them scripted, and when they brought in a choreographer from I believe it was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
The Matrix.
Yeah, and the guy looked at the script and said, "What do you need me for?"
For my all-time favorite, I would probably have to say Reservoir Dogs. The first Tarantino movie I ever saw. I knew nothing about him. I knew nothing about his movies. I had just come across it, and the movie completely blew me away. And the film, it's like a reverse heist movie. I mean, it's a heist movie without the heist.
Yeah.
And, you know, like many Tarantino movies that you see, the beginning of a lot of his mythologies he carries out through his movies, you know, there's always a theme of betrayal, I feel, that Tarantino has in his movies. Betrayals and trust, and being honorable in a very dishonorable world. I mean, that's the worlds his characters live in. They're generally criminals or, you know, assassins in the case of Kill Bill. And they have, you know, this code of honor, and Reservoir Dogs really does boast a specific code of honor. I love the dialogue in it. The characters I felt were great, and four leads I thought all did a great job. Harvey Keitel as Mr. White, Tim Roth as Mr. Orange, and Michael Madsen as Mr. Blonde, and especially Steve Buscemi as Mr. Pink. I thought they all did a great job, and I liked how he went into the backstory of the characters as well, as opposed to just pertaining to the robbery. He would show you who these guys were beforehand, you know, and it's just, I thought the film was perfectly laden with great homages, and you know, sort of the story of how he even got Reservoir Dogs together, I thought was, you know, very fascinating, interesting, and being able to get Harvey Keitel on your first movie is a great plus, and he did a great job with it. And of course, everyone loves the ending to Reservoir Dogs. I won't give it away for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I love it. It's a great Sergio Leone reference. You know, the film just carried, you know, great dialogue, great direction. So that's why I like Reservoir Dogs. It was something fresh and new, and it kind of set up the rest of his filmmaking style. I mean, you can see him building off of that with each film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if I had to pick a least favorite, I would have to go with Reservoir Dogs. I mean, it's not a bad film, and I could see potential that Tarantino would have, but I think he made better films. I think Pulp Fiction's a better film. I do agree with the acting. I think Steve Buscemi is probably, in my opinion, the best. Lawrence Tierney as Joe. A lot of times, most of the movie is in the warehouse, and they're sitting, waiting for Joe and the rest of the gang to come back, and even though we kind of get to see a little bit of the character.
But that's what a Tarantino movie is about, you know, you're hanging around with the characters. It's not necessarily, you know, yeah, they're there waiting, but, you know, they're talking about different things at the same time, running scenarios in their head, you know. They talk about how each of them were able to escape from the police. I mean, there's more than waiting going on. You're hanging around with the characters, you're getting to know them more without even him pushing exposition about the characters in your face.
Yeah, but I mean, I think he did a better job with much later films. I liked the opening scene the best at the restaurant where the conversation is split between Madonna and the Like a Virgin song, and another conversation. Joe's trying to remember this Asian person and all that. I thought that was my favorite scene in the whole movie. It's not quite as good as in my opinion, as the scene in Pulp Fiction where John Travolta and Samuel Jackson are talking about Big Mac in France. I thought that was a better conversation, but to me, I think his better work came. I think Pulp Fiction is a better film, and I think he got much better here. I mean, it's not a bad movie, it's just I didn't like that movie as much as like Pulp Fiction or the Kill Bills.
Pulp Fiction's sort of like his Citizen Kane. I mean, everyone loves Pulp Fiction. You can't really say anything on Pulp Fiction that hasn't already been said. That's why I didn't pick it for my best movie. It's not my favorite movie of his, but it's very good. You can't, deny it for its creativity and its witty characters. For my least favorite Tarantino movie, I would have to go with Death Proof, his half of Grindhouse. And I like all of Tarantino's movies. I don't think he's made a bad movie in my opinion.
Really.
No, he hasn't made a film that I've hated or disliked. The only thing about Death Proof I didn't like was, yes, it's filled with dialogue. I know people are going to say, it's a Tarantino movie, it's going to have dialogue, what do you think he's going to talk about? But it was Tarantino trying to do a horror film, and instead he ended up doing a Tarantino movie with just tons and tons of dialogue, and Kurt Russell's great in it. I mean, he makes the movie very watchable and enjoyable. Granted, I wish he was in it a lot more. But it just feels like you watch one movie, and then Death Proof restarts and you see a whole new movie with different characters. So it's almost like you're getting two movies in one with Death Proof. I still enjoyed it, but if I had to pick a least favorite, that's my... In terms of him stylistically, it was his least interesting one, and visually it wasn't as interesting as his other films, and didn't really pop out at you.
Yeah, and I understand Planet of Terror, the film that's on before Death Proof, is more like a homage to the 70s slasher films.
Yeah, Planet of Terror really pushes the homage, it's got a lot of different references. Death Proof has a lot of homages too, but it didn't do it in the same style Planet Terror does, and that's why I think Planet Terror almost sort of overshadowed Death Proof. But Death Proof is still a good, enjoyable movie. It's got a terrific car chase at the end of it that's, just as good as the House of Blue Leaves sword fight in Kill Bill Volume 1. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I wish I would have. Yeah, he can definitely do more than dialogue. I mean, the action scenes are amazing. He's great at doing action, and the car chases in Death Proof are great. So now we just wait and see if he can handle a war film with Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
But your least favorite again?
Okay, my favorite, it would be a tie between the two Kill Bills. My least favorite is Reservoir Dogs. Again, it's not a bad film, but I think Pulp Fiction and the Kill Bills are better in my opinion.
I'm on the opposite point of you. My favorite film by him is Reservoir Dogs. I loved it. I thought it was original, funny, and great characters, and terrific crime film. And my least favorite is probably Death Proof. Again, Tarantino hasn't made a bad film. It's just the one I thought he did less than average on.
Alright, so if you want to post a comment about the video, or perhaps you would like to tell us what your favorite and least favorite Quentin Tarantino film, go ahead and do that. So thank you very much for watching, and subscribe if you like what you saw, and we'll see you on the next edition of R&B Reviews.